Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 5-minute lightning talk. And we'll be discussing what is zero trust. I'm Thomas Rivera, and I'll lead you through a quick discussion on zero trust. First off, let's define what zero trust is. So zero trust is a collection of security methodologies that work together to enforce access with the view that your network has already been compromised, and using a bunch of contextual information from a bunch of different sources, for example, from identity, security, IT infrastructure, risk and analysis tools. And really, in the end, enabling dynamic, continuous, granular enforcement of specific security policies that are set up. So what are the characteristics of zero trust? First, it includes things such as consistent security strategy of users accessing data that resides in any form and coming from anywhere. Zero trust also assumes you never trust and always verify in terms of data access and or access to services. Also, a characteristic is continuous authorization regardless of the originating request location. And then lastly, increased visibility and analytics across the entire network. So it's really relying on a bunch of analytics along with advanced visibility within your network. So zero trust assumes compromise. And with that assumption, there is a need then to compartmentalize your network. However, complete compartmentalization is not really useful. So what zero trust does is it applies compartment-specific policies all the time, continuously. So let's go through some examples. Certainly things like least privilege, least functionality, least accessibility, least exposure, and lastly, coherence, meaning what do you require from a knowledge perspective, and what's your intended or expected and observed behavior at any given point in time. Great example of coherence would be, let's say, a system administrator within an organization has the ability and the authorization to do specific administrative tasks. Well, that administrator, in this example, let's say works from 8 to 5, and they're allowed to do specific tasks based on the security policies that they're set up for zero trust. Let's assume that same employee, the administrator, attempts to do something at, let's say, 12 midnight, which is outside of their known working hours. That same activity that they are allowed to do between 8 and 5 would not necessarily be allowed to execute during off business hours. So that's an example of coherence. So in summary, zero trust is really a journey. It's not a destination. It's not a SKU from a certain security vendor. It actually involves a lot of different pieces and parts from many different vendors. So there's a lot of architectures out there on zero trust, frameworks, guidance documents to help with planning and implementation of zero trust. And as I alluded to before, security vendor interoperability is really going to be a major key to the success of your implementation of zero trust. And lastly, a phased approach is usually what we find to be most beneficial when you're planning your implementation. Hopefully this is a little bit of a teaser for what's to come. So please do join us. We will have a zero trust session at the Storage Security Summit on May 11th. And that'll be an extended talk of what we just discussed here. We'll also have towards the end of the day on that Security Summit, May 11th, a Birds of a Feather session where we'll have live interaction and discussion and get to ask questions as well to myself and some others. So look forward to seeing you at the Storage Security Summit put on by SNIA, and We'll look for you then. Thanks for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.